Hello. How are we doing today? This evening, this morning, this afternoon, depending on what time zone you're in, or if you're watching this recorded. Which reminds me, I'm not going to do it. It's like I didn't upload Tuesday's talk, but spent most of the time talking with John about DJ equipment and streaming in general. Boring to most, probably. I had a good time. So, hey Chris, what's up? How are you? And life in general? See, you're not taking off the next 2 weeks like most of the world is. I usually don't take off. Well, that's not true. I usually take off. Last year or 2 years ago, we started a family tradition of going away. 2 years ago, actually today, according to Facebook, we did a family trip to Paris and London for Christmas, which I really enjoyed. I want to make that our annual tradition, but the wife was like, no, I missed decorating the house and being at home for Christmas, blah, blah, blah. So I think we're going to do it every other year, which means next Christmas, I'll probably take off and visit a new city/country for Christmas. Yeah, a lot of people do. I don't mind working in the office, especially now because we're not doing anything. It helps to let a lot of the team take off, and plus I catch up on a lot of things, get reviews done, that kind of stuff. So what are we here today? Oh, MVP Global Summit site. So for those of you that are new, like Chris, at least for watching this, I built this site a couple years ago, actually quite some time ago, to track the events that happen at any conference. So based on the URL and the subdomain, it kind of will list all the events. So for this particular summit in 2018, there were at least 4 events. There were actually more than this. This is just a copy of my local dev database, but based on the year, you can kind of see all the events that happened. And again, mostly it's just copy paste, but although there's some that repeat over time. So this app was written in .NET 4.7, I think, and I spent last week or week and a half kind of converting it over to .NET 5 and refactoring a bit. We got it to the point where the APIs are done, and yesterday or Tuesday, I was starting to try to figure. Yeah, I got that email today too. But they announced it last year. I know you're a new MVP, but they announced it last year when COVID happened that this one meeting, this 2020's version in 2021 will be virtual. That our next shot of being in person will be 2022. I actually didn't attend the 2020 version of it because it just happened in the day. Yeah, I opted out too. I didn't really watch it, or I signed up to go, but it took place during the day, and there was really nothing that excited me that said "Go Joe, go." So, I guess we'll see what topics there are this year. So built out the APIs now. In the past, it didn't have an API. It was pretty much just big one gigantic web form app. So now I built out the APIs and data layers, etc., to now be able to build a UI. The conversation that started on Tuesday was, how do I want to do that? What user interface do I want to build? Do we want to go with, where is it? I have a list open because we were looking at it last week. We want to build something in the Razor Pages format, which is pretty much just straight a page for each thing you want to do. Do you want to follow the MVC route, which is the model view controller route, which is, hey, I got this thing and I want to provide basic edit like list events, view events, etc. And then there's Blazor, which runs within your browser using C# and compiled. Or then look at the client-side based development, so something like Vue, React, Angular, or some combination thereof. And each one of them has their merits to some way, shape, or form. I think the majority of people use a mobile app for this, but the good news is, I could build the user interface and then, or build a web app and then at some point build a mobile app, or just start mobile first and build it in Angular or Vue and be fully responsive. At the same time, I can just build it fully responsive and I don't need a application, so to speak. So I think I'm going to just start with Razor pages for now. I mean, who knows if we'll ever go back to in-person conferences again. So I was kind of unmotivated to start this. And then with the news today of the MVP Summit, this was used for more than the MVP Summit, but all the events that it kind of worked for or have gone the way of the dodo birds, so to speak. There was past summits, and today PASS announced that they're closing shop. It was for TechEd. TechEd is no more. Granted, that one was replaced by a combination of Ignite and a couple other things, and MVP Summit. So kind of debating whether or not I want to actually convert it anymore. And the funny thing is, I think the domain name expires this Saturday. That's the email. 7 days left. So it expires on, what's the 22nd? It expires next Tuesday. So got the opportunity to renew it or not renew it. When I asked on Twitter last week, or when I got the 30-day reminder, people said to renew it. I mean, it's not the matter of cost, but I just don't want to renew it just to renew it. So in any case, it still gives me the opportunity to play with something new, whether that be Razor, new Razor pages, or Blazor pages. I also talked about doing Vue and kind of playing around with Vue for a while. So I think I'm going to start with Razor pages just so I can get familiar with them and then move into something else in another stream. And each of these are, even though it's one solution, they're all in multiple repositories, so I should probably do that. Let's go over to Git, create a new one. Actually, these are not in Git. This is in Azure DevOps, because this is all private. The source code for this one wasn't public. As I'll create the repo here. At some point, I got to create a README in general. Let's go to repos, create a new repo, which I thought was there. It might be this drop down. Yeah, new repo. Let's be consistent. Event meetups.core.web UI. Actually, I think I did UI in capital I in the previous. And I will initialize it with Visual Studio, but I will override that one pretty darn quickly. Really wish I can just put in like my own here, because I do have a custom one that I use for every single project. Let's just do Visual Studio. Or actually, it doesn't have Writer. That's for JetBrains. No. Let's do Visual Studio. Create. And let's do clone. This with SSH. Do git pull. Actually, no, git clone. Where are you? Git clone. That's not the folder I wanted to go into, only because all these are kind of in one folder. Event Meetups, core. I'm going to change that name. Here, I just wanted to get the root folder, and this should be web UI clone. Cancel. I don't want to open it. So let's go and do file, new project. Add new project, and let's choose ASP.NET Core web application. And we are going to call this event meetups.core. Web UI, and the reason why it says core, yes, Vetimus, hopefully, or Yetimus, hopefully I pronounced that right. Actually, I'm starting to really prefer Writer over Visual Studio. I started using Writer about a year ago, mostly because I have a Mac computer for work and started playing around with doing cross-platform stuff, and Writer works both. But for the stream, since I started back in March, I've been pretty much using Writer solely. There's been one or two cases where I dropped into Visual Studio to make things a little bit, for things that Writer just didn't support at the time, or I was showing something specific in Visual Studio. But for the most part, I pretty much use Writer exclusively now. Although I have Visual Studio installed, I haven't really used it for anything. And, it's kind of cheaper. Unless you're getting Visual Studio for free, Writer is cheaper than Visual Studio out of the box. So yes, and I'm not just saying that because I get it for free or if I have any other relationship with them. It's just, I like it. It's so much, it's faster. It did a lot of things right. I love to say that Writer is like Visual Studio and ReSharper had a baby. Writer was the offspring. It combines the best of both worlds. And the Writer itself is really just written on top of the IntelliJ platform, which is WebStorm, Google Android Studio, and lots of others. So they wrote the engine, and then others kind of just plug in their tools. And it has a lot of built-in things, like the database management is awesome inside of it, test coverage, Azure Explorers. The only real downside to it is the extension ecosystem is not as vast as it is in Visual Studio, but Visual Studio has been around for 20 some odd years, but this has only been around for 5 or 6. Yeah, so if you're used to IntelliJ, it's pretty easy. And the good thing about it is there are keyboard shortcuts. So if you use ReSharper in it, you'll never notice the difference as far as keyboards, but you can also import just Visual Studio keyboard bindings, so you're used to it. If you were to see what my Visual Studio looks like, it's set up very similar to this with a couple exceptions. I don't have a database tab always open because I'm usually not working in database projects, but this particular one is. But the beauty is with their database projects is you can do anything, not just SQL Server based one. You can do Cosmos, SQL Server, Cassandra, Mongo. There's like 40 different providers for it. And to be honest, like I said, I've been using it and I haven't gone back. I don't even update Visual Studio as much anymore. I did the day that .NET 5 came out just to see some of the new project support because Rider did not have it day of. That's just one downside of it. There could be a week or two behind in certain features, but they do things a lot nicer. If you look here, you got a simple IDE. They support Azure functions, unit tests, plots. You can download templates. Might as well cancel this for now. There's a better version control inside of it, Azure services. And the cool thing is a lot of what you see on the bottom, which is not showing, a lot of what you see on the bottom here, their Git integration, the to-do list integration, which I actually love. For Visual Studio Code, I have a plugin, and you can do it with Visual Studio now, but it's kind of clunky. Unit Test uses their Writer, ReSharper, Unit Test Explorer. Same thing with the profile as built-in terminal, which Visual Studio does now too. Their Nuget browser, I think, is far superior. And the reason why is because this not only shows you everything in one UI, but you can see, like right here, I have 14 packages installed. Shows me the version that's installed here, any updates here, and then below shows me other packages that I have not actually installed, like physically installed, put in my packages.config or in my project file, but are installed due to a reference from something else. So like this castle.core is installed in the data.test probably because there's a something that needed it, which is always cool. And then I can just choose pre-release here, and then I have the option to upgrade one, upgrade them all, blah, blah, blah. Database changes, see that? Any specific database changes? This uses their data grid project. Services is neat too because you have direct things that are integrated, like the console. I don't have any queries running right now, but the output for that has built-in Azure storage emulator, so you don't need the Azure storage emulator. Built-in Docker support, so I can start, stop Docker containers as well as other things. And these are all come out of the box. One of my favorite features is the HTTP request, which is killer if you are working on APIs. A lot you can create. You don't need Postman for it. You can create these requests, which apparently I don't have any in there, but I do have some here. These scratches that will save requests, and you can see all the output and put them as part of your source file and just run them there. I actually did a demo of Writer, which I was actually thinking about recording a more pristine one. If you go to my stream under, not my stream, my GitHub page under github.com, jguadagno/contacts, where I did pretty much started the stream. I kind of blogged, or I don't say blog, but edited this outline.md file as we were progressing through building out the contacts app from when we started. And I did a whole day on JetBrains Writer. We started off introducing Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code, then JetBrains Writer, and then kind of built out the application as we went along. So it was a very long-winded answer to yes. It's definitely worth a try, and I think it's like only $200, but it's I really like it. Okay, so where were we? Oh, we were creating a new project for the UI. So let's go to add new project. Remembered everything that I typed before. So let's do Event Meetups, and the name doesn't really matter as much. This is kind of my standard project name. It's just this. Core was the directory name, only because I have two different versions of it, my old legacy stuff, and then the .NET Core version, which now I need to rename because it's no longer .NET Core. I just want to get the folder names right because it's a pain in the butt if you don't do it. So the folder names have core in it, which is right. So this should be Web API. And I always put everything in a source folder now. I used to not do that, but now I do. And then what do we want to do? Do we want to do empty gRPC service? We don't need to do that, although we probably could have did that for the API, but that was, the API started off last year before .NET 5 was a thing. We're not going to do a Razor class library. We've already built the API, so it's really just a web app. We're not going to do web app with MVC, nor will we do Angular or React.js. We might do that at a later date. So let's go with web app. We're going to use C#, .NET 5, no authentication right now, although we are going to probably move to this at a later point once I get authentication working. Right now, I just want to get the functionality working and then throw user interface on afterwards. So let's do create. Cool. And it's there. Ooh, look at that. All those projects. This is cool. It's telling me that these projects haven't really been in there. And do I want to add them to the list? This is the initial kickoff. So I'm going to say yes. Once it adds these files into the project and it's restored, I won't get those prompts anymore. Okie dokie. So let's just run this and see what we have, what we're starting with. Now, if you're following along, once this starts, I'll go back to some of the history of some of the things that we're going to need to do. Cool. So it's working. It's got the Bootstrap interface there, has a home privacy page. So we're going to go and tweak all this at some point to look similar to this, including updating all this. But there's two things we need to worry about outside of the security. The first is, well, essentially how we want to approach it. Do we want to build out the site first, meaning build out this view page, build out all the feeds, build out the local links, etc., which is going to probably take more than one day or at least more than a half hour, or focus on this part? The reason why I say focus on this part is this is a multi-tenanted application, which means it serves more than one client. I mentioned at one point it was TechEd events, it was past Summit events, it was MVP Global Summit events. So in order to do that and keep one code base and not just copy paste the same code base across each of them, we kind of figure that out based on the URL. So as a result of coming from MVP Summit Events.info /MVP 2016, we go make a call to database, get some data, and that was kind of the query you see here. So if I run this, you'll see it comes up with this main event table, which is listed right here. So we look at the URL. In this case, I do essentially a query. So they give me where the domain equals whatever is passed in, and the short name equals this. Based on that, I return, so the sample we had on screen was this. I am going to return the number 16 for the main event ID and then work with that, go across. The reason why I said it's an option, because honestly, I don't know how to do it with .NET 5. I know that there's the startup and everything, but I've never really done anything yet in .NET Core to figure out, or ASP.NET Core to figure out that. So just kind of learning it as we go. So to give an example of what it looked like, I am going to pull up the old example for the old project, which is this one. And I'm going to do new window, so I keep them both open. Once this loads, I'll pull up the web app project and just kind of show some of the sample code. It's taking a long time to run. You're taking so long. There it goes. As soon as you threaten it, why are you taking so long? Could probably close you. That doesn't load. Something's paused. Oh, code analysis is paused because it's still loading. So inside here, there is the old global ASAX, and that's where I kind of did all the work. Remember correctly? Yeah. So you see here, you get a copy of the host. I break out the HTTP host, and I add the host to the global session, and then get the subdomain name, etc., to build it out. And this kind of shows the routing, and I need to replicate something like this. So my first thing is, I know session variables are a bad thing now, so I'm probably not going to use them. Let's go here. Where are we at? Oh, so this is where I actually started looking at getting the HTTP context to see what I can get from the server as far as host info, etc. Some of it is actually probably already built in to it. So let's go take a look at the object model that it provides. That's all configure. That's startup. We haven't shared. That's just layout. Let's change that after. There's something called the HTTP middleware pipeline that I need to get. So let's see. Here it is, middleware. Let's see what I need to do to get that. A quick explanation of middleware. Request comes in and then one or more things can execute before the response comes back. So I'm thinking that we can register our own middleware piece that reads the HTTP host and the subdomain, if any, or the route parameters so that we can map it over to the right place. Hey, thanks, Hector, for the follow. Hector HSC. Pretty cool. Thank you. So let's take a look at what we need to do to build the middleware component. And for those of you that are new, since Hector, I've never seen you before, and Yetimus, hopefully I pronounced your name right, or at least your handle right. A lot of the stuff I do on my stream is based on Microsoft frameworks, so to speak, although I do other things like React Native and others. But a lot of what I'm doing is not scripted. A lot of it's kind of trying to figure out how to do things. So it's more of like watching me go through the process of figuring out learning. Because, my opinion, yes, there are some experts, but behind every expert, there's lots of practice. So try to make it easy to let others know that, hey, this is it's not easy, and there's lots of different ways to figure things out. And as quick as technology changes, there's ways to learn. Cool, Hector. So glad you're new. If you're really new and want to see step by step and got time on your hands, if you go to my repo at github.com/JoeG underneath the contacts is kind of an app I built literally from scratch. And if you go to the outline page, which I've highlighted on the screen, you can see the app built from literally like introduction to the IDE. We built out the model, the business layer, data layer, where I explain a lot of basic concepts. Then you can watch the video on YouTube and see the source code at that place. Saw a post on LinkedIn from a Norman Guadagno. My father-in-law is named Norman, but it's not Guadagno. I don't have any known relatives with the name of Norman. Most of my relatives are not on LinkedIn. But apparently in Southern California, there's a collection of Guadagnos. Yes. Yes, there is. There's actually a guy at Quicken Loans that started about 6 months ago with the last name of Guadagno. I know it's a very unique name, and he has no relation. But most of my relatives have different last names that are on LinkedIn, except for LinkedIn that keeps recommending my mother, who departed away 8 years ago now, to say I should connect with her, because I always think it's funny. But it's from the East Coast. It could be related to the former governor. Thanks, Chris. She passed away a long time ago. The former governor of Jersey had the last name of Guadagno, had no relation whatsoever, even though I do have quite a bit, in New York still with, last name. They're just not tech savvy, not on LinkedIn. A lot of them are in the construction business. Which is ironic, Italians in the construction business, go figure. Cool. So you can go through here, like I was saying, Hector I'm gonna curious when I'm done with this, Chris. I'm gonna pull up LinkedIn and see. I might as well do it now. What the heck? See if he pops up in my recommended. Hopefully, no messages pop up. Oh. Nope. Let's see the My Network. Every once in a while, a person will come in here that is, same last name, but nope. Cool. I'm gonna have to look up that person. Apparently, I got a lot of requests to approve. So where were we? Okay, we got the home page. We're looking at middleware. Let's go look at middleware. So this talks about how middleware runs. So you see we get the endpoint, we can have our custom middleware, then it kind of goes all the way back up and all the way back down. So request comes in, goes through the exceptions, goes through any redirections. So that's if it should go from HTTP to HTTPS, or this page is no longer here, go to this page, does all that. Static files go next. Then it looks for routing, saying, okay, this matches this particular URL pattern, go do this. Checks to make sure CORS is there, does authentication, then authorization, make sure you're there. Then it runs your middleware. Then the endpoint is the actual page and then goes all the way back up the pipeline. Aha. Okay, so I'll check it out. Might as well pull it up now that you bring it up, Chris. I'll pull that up on my other screen, which is good, so you can't see it. Oh, he's at a boss, and he probably speaks with a funny accent, too. No, don't know him. Hope you're not saying we look alike, because I wear glasses occasionally now, and I have no hair. Just teasing. Let's see. So we're going to want to do something around here. We're not going to do the model binding and validation. We got use, we'll eventually use CORS, we'll eventually use this. Got to do something around here for what our endpoints look like. Let's see what else. Following startup configure when app runs in development mode. Yeah, we already got that in there. Exception handler, probably have that in there already. We're going to want to enable this. I think a lot of these are enabled by default. So let's just see. Use static pages, HTTPS redirection. So essentially, let's go through the configure. Configure part of an ASP.NET core application tells you how you want ASP.NET Core to work. So in the old ways in .NET Framework, you kind of got everything, and you had to opt out what you don't want. In ASP.NET Core, Microsoft flipped it and said, I want you to tell us what you want. So here, the first step is for configure services, add Razor pages. So that says, I want to use the Razor page engine. So it doesn't load anything about the MVC, anything else, but just the Razor processing. Now it says here, if I'm in the development environment, I want to use the developer exception pages. So if you're not new to ASP.NET development, that's the infamous yellow screen of death, now white or blue screen, where it shows you all the details of your exception. But if you are not in a development environment, take this to the error page so it doesn't show all the details, blah, blah, blah. I want to force redirection to HTTPS. I want to use static files, and this is important. If you don't have static files on, every page request that comes in is going to be processed on the server. So that means if you're doing things like CSS files, JavaScript files, it won't serve those because it's going to think that they're server-based pages. So it's important to turn that on, assuming you're going to show CSS pages and stuff. If I comment this out and rerun the project, still running. So let's go here. I believe we're going to get an error and some really funkiness. Let's do a hard reload. So I'm going to cheat and open up the developer tools. By default, it takes it as a responsive site, which I don't like, but let's just do a pixel 2x. Nope. Let's do a 100% screen. And let's set my screen to, I wish there was, just leave me alone with this. I don't want it to be, let's just do this. So I am going to empty cache and reload. And I should have got a bunch of errors because I hid those pages. This is zoomed in a little bit. That's why it's kind of cramped, because I zoom in so you can see it better on the screen. That's weird. I should have got a bunch of errors because I hid that. Oh well. Let's take you off and get you back there. Probably because I didn't recompile it. We're using routing, we're using authorization, and then we are using endpoints. And the map browser pages tells it that we're going to just use that syntax. So anything in the pages folder, it is going to show up, or it's going to show. So we are going to want to inject something in here that kind of takes the request. So when I type in localhost 44383, it knows what to do. So if I type locally https MVP summit events.info / MVP 2020, since that's the new one, I want to be able to grab this and do something with it. And that's where the middleware comes in. So let's go back to our middleware pages and see what we have. So I kind of covered points 1 through 9, which are in the startup config as outlined here. We'll add more and more of these as we start building it, and branch the middleware pipeline. Yeah, I don't want to do that. So what this one is doing is saying if I go to /map, run this test, I just want to intercept the data coming in and allow the response to go through. That's not what we want. And I don't want to hard code these because I want to be able to configure. I want to be able to type in, MVP summit info and then MVP 2018 and have it figure that out via, database calls stuff. So no. Oh, here's a way where you can branch based on query string, but I don't want to do that. Use when also branches a pipeline based on the result of a given predicate, unlike map when. Use when. Oh, that's kind of cool. Diagnostic, forwarded headers, forwarded proxy headers, no. Header propagation, no. HTTP method override, no. No. defines and constrains request routes. This one we might want to do. Session we might want to do URL rewrite. Let's go take a look at, oh, I already forgot which one I wanted. Let's take a look at this one and this one. So we might do the URL rewrite. So routing. Routing is responsible for matching HTTP requests and dispatching those requests to apps executable endpoints. Okie dokie. Routing basics, yeah. Use endpoints, yeah. That's not what I want to do. The map get method is used to define an endpoint. Endpoint is something that can be selected, executed. Use endpoints map. Might do something like this, but that doesn't help with the domain. That helps with the subdomain. But I need a way to get the main domain out of it. But it looks like this has a lot in here. Endpoints, health checks. Endpoint meta, routing concepts, executable has request. And this just shows how you go from next to next. Let's do the route template. Tokens with defined route parameters that are bound if the route matches more than one route parameter can be used to control a route. Federal ID, okay. Catch-all. Route parameters may have default values. Yeah. So this gives me what I need for the at least subdirectory, but I still need the host. So I'm thinking I can do something like page equals or subdomain in there, and that would give me at least this part of it, but I still need to get this part. That one. Complex segments. Yeah, route constraint. Oh yeah. So this is something that I might do. I don't think I really need to constrain it as much outside of saying it's required. So far we got route and then colon subdomain or bracket subdomain colon required. Custom route constraints. I might have to do a custom one. Parameter transformation. Sounds so formal. Parameter transformer reference. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, yeah. Well, that makes sense. Like if you're building a blog, you want to translate. That's cool. URL generation. Troubleshooting URL generation. Addresses. Ambient values. Host matching. That might be what I want. Perfect. Host matching in routes with require host. Require host applies a constraint to the route which requires the specified host. Well, that's helpful. Required host requires the specified host. With any port, wildcard, blah, blah, blah. So this says required hosts is that, but that's hard coded. I don't want to have to do that. Following code uses a host attribute in the controller. I might do that for like the administrative piece of it. So ultimately I want to build this. Then I want to build like app dot event meetups dot info, which is going to be a separate domain that will allow me to do like maintenance for it, like add and remove events, that kind of stuff. But for the most part, I still need that. This is great, but this I need to pull in from the database. Most routes updated core to increase performance. That just shows timing. That's still stopwatch, guidance, define endpoints. Creating routing integrated middleware. I really hate when they use names like cool meta attribute when you're trying to explain a meta attribute. I want a real world example. Do you make middleware useful with and without routing? Didn't look like it had everything I wanted, but it's pretty darn close. So I'm going to keep you open. Let's go look at the session. Cookie session state. I mean, the session state example that I wanted to use with the, or that I use in the legacy is because you had it. I don't know if I want to do that going forward, but if it's still there, it might make it easier to put the stuff over. Okay. Could add that. Let's see what the HTTP context items are. Is used to store data while processing a single request. The collection contents are discarded after the request is processed. Yeah, probably don't want to do that. That just means every time you go to the page, I have to kind of redo everything. The idea is once I have the session established, and that's, you know, the server taking the multiple requests back and forth. So if I like go to this site, the second I logged in, it created a session. So if I come here and do view details of the site, I didn't make another callback. It was still creating all that in memory on the server. So I know that I did that, and it's not going back and reprocessing the MVP summit info / MVP 2016. So Find endpoints. Oh, wrong page. Go here. Context items, middleware. Might do that. Cache, don't want to worry about cache. So nothing really in there. Rewriting is another thing. So here, if we went and did not that one. In the old way, I used to have it like MVP 2016 dot this without this part here. But that became a maintenance nightmare. Every time a new event had to go, I had to go to the web server and add that, point it to this domain, plus it ruins your search engine optimization. So I got rid of that. Now it actually handles it behind the scenes, but MVP 2016. See it, I love it when there's, oh, this is going to be so easy. Just, open up the project and voila. And yeah, that's the case for many things, but in this, I'm kind of like reimagining how we do it, writing it in a better way and trying to use more modern things and not just lifting and shifting, as they say. So we looked at that one. Let's look at the rewrite. Get a request for API, turn it back to 2. Yeah, example really doesn't help. That's going to help if we change any of the URL names. So I don't think we need to worry about that one. So that put us to none of these can really help. Migrate HTTP handles, app startup, and ASP. Let's see what that one does. Ooh, lifetime and registration options. It's another good one. Shout out to my friend Steve Smith, who seems to be on every one of these pieces of documentation. Way to go, artist. Let's see. So we already covered the startup class. To extend startup with filters to configure middleware at the beginning or end of applications configure. Yeah, that's not what we really do. Let's see this make HTTP request. What's in here? Yep, that's not what I want to do. Let's see if there's something in the host section. Web host. Set up a host. And it's everything we just did. I host application lifetime. Allows for post-startup and shutdown activities. These properties on the interface are cancelable tokens used to register action. Application stopped, application stopping. I don't really care about the application. Let's see if this root services, no. Okay, that's not what I wanted. Let's see what's in the generic host. Really want something on the session. Let's see what this says. Oh, this doesn't do what I want. Files. Maybe it's outside of fundamentals. Layout, razor syntax, tab, helpers, advanced, application model. Both application models, adding global filters, adding controllers. This is actually what I think I might want. Some built-in behaviors are implemented by default. This provider is responsible for constructing the controller model, which in turn references. That's cool. We probably want the I application model. Sample modifying an application description. Yeah. Don't really want that. Needs-based routing, we might want modifying the route controller description. Now, what if it's a filter? Filters in ASP.NET Core allow code to run before or alter stages in a specific request processing pipeline. Response caching. How filters work. Resource filter, action filters. Resource filter sounds like it's what we could use on executing. Oh, yeah. Could do that. And return that back. Looks like I might want to introduce a filter. Multiple filter stagings, built-in filter attributes. Add header filter. No, can do that yet. Cool. Oh, looks like we're out of time for today. I think I'm going to research the filters a little bit more. And then we might start off. I got a 4-day weekend coming up, so who knows? I might stream tomorrow if I'm in between painting jobs at home and work on this some more. Cool. I'm going to keep this browser window open because I think I'm going to come back here. Thanks for watching. Oh, but dude, she loved the magazines. I have no idea if she's read through all of them, but she was super psyched when she got them. She's been feeling better today, a little off, but I think it's just the time of year, potentially getting a cold. She had some stomach aches last night and this morning. Could have been just something she ate. So nothing major. Thanks again for the magazines. I think she's actually went to bed already because she got a super early shift tomorrow at another store that she works at. So she's got to be up at like 3 a.m. our time. Yeah. If you pop in and see any of those, let me know and I'll see if she has them, if you see something else like that. But she did say that there are a lot of the things she wanted to do and a lot of places she wanted to see. So thanks again for that. I'm going to probably head out of here. Thanks. Oh, wow, there's a lot more people here. Maybe I should keep going. Let's figure out these filters. There's 5 people. Oh, thanks, Hector. I think I'll continue a little bit more reading that. We got 5 people viewing. Let's pick a good topic. Let's go check with the resource filters because I think that's where we might work. Implement either resource filter, wraps, execution, most filters. It doesn't really say what's in there. Indy Bruni's book she just released. Okay, I'm gonna write that name down once the stream is done. Yeah, she works for I think you have them out by, or at least where you used to live. A store called Big Five, and it's in retail, so they get what they call the truck, which is their deliveries, and they come at 3, 4 in the morning. They have to get there because they, unload the truck before the store starts up. So one store is short staffed, so she had to go in and help. But that's, joys of being in retail, right? When you're young. Action filters. So resource filters really didn't show much in there. Let's see what this says. Filter scopes, order of execution, global, controller, razor, method, controller. Yeah, so probably do a global filter one. Have to filter for a given action. Sample, filler. Yeah, well, that doesn't on the really help. I think pretty much we all did. And that's what you do to make some money when you're young before you start your quote unquote real career, right? On action executing. I don't want to really do this because I have to do that for every controller or every class. And I can do this. Oh, but that actually adds it so I can use it. Let's see. Yeah, just had to pass cancellation. Now, filters can be added by type or by instance. An instance is added. Used for every request. If a type is added, it's type activated. Okay. We probably do it on service, so it's all used out. You think you were a truck driver? You don't remember if you were? Oh, I was a truck driver. I thought I said I think I was a truck driver. Like, how do you think that? You should know if you were or not. Yeah, I can imagine a lot of us did a lot of jobs. I had 2 or 3, packing bags at a grocery store, working at a Radio Shack, working at a store like Micro Center, CompUSA, before I got started in my real programming career, which ironically enough wasn't my job I went to college for. Go figure. Went to college to become a high school math teacher. Ended up teaching computers to some extent. Let's see. When using a type filter attribute, yeah, probably not going to do. Using middleware in the pipeline. So I got to do something between either a filter or custom middleware. Looks like I know what I'm doing in the morning. I was planning on writing a blog post in the morning, but now it looks like I'm going to play around with middlewares. Yeah, it does, right? It's super old. It was a store. I think it was actually called. Oh, it was called Computer World and not the magazine, but it was like a CompUSA, just a lot smaller. Time they sold Macs and software in a box and other cool things like that. Kind of realized how I got started liking computers. Let's see, configure supported culture. Use middleware. Yeah, it doesn't. Well, I'm going to open up this web page and just more reading. So, for those of you that were new to the stream, sorry you didn't see me write physical code. We started, but it's, whole new process to file new to kind of figure out where we want to go. I can do a MVC app and do everything and kind of hack it, but I'm trying to do things the right way. I brought my first graphics program at CompUSA. Well, my dad bought it for me. Paint Shop Pro 7. Nice. I had my fair mix of the Paint Shop Pros and what was the other one? Corel was the other graphics editor at the time. Yeah, they were rough. So I'll probably be back tomorrow, maybe Saturday. School chatting with you. What app are you working on? If you can share that info. Oh yeah, sure, Hector. I don't know when you joined. Um, I built an app 6 years ago called Event Meetups. The concept behind Event Meetups is that when you go to conferences, at least in person, there are a lot of events that happen, parties, some of them private, some of them public. And I built a site to kind of track all those events happening because things like the MVP Summit that's up on here, there are a lot of events that happen throughout that are not part of the main conference. So, like in this example in 2016, Progress at the time, aka Telerik, had a influencer party. Hey, Dave, signing on just as I was about to sign off. But welcome to the party. Um, so these these uh, these parties happen, and a lot of people don't know about them. So I built this site as a way for others to track it. This particular one does what's called multi-tenanted, that allows for the site itself, Event Meetups, to host multiple different websites. In this particular one, it's hosting for the MVP Global Summit. And in this example, in 2016, there were 4. But as I showed an example earlier, we hosted for TechEd, and in the production database, you'll see Microsoft MVP Summit, Microsoft TechEd, SQL Server Pass or SQL Pass, and a couple others. So this app, like I said, was written 6-7 years ago. I think it goes back as early as 2016. So that's at least 4 years ago. Or how early does it go? 2010 is when I actually first started it. So it's 10 years old now. So it was written in .NET 3.5 at the time. I upgraded it to 4.7. Now I started to upgrade it to .NET 5. In this particular case, I rewrote everything that was a web form app, which is this one here, which you see is pretty much just the website and then some ancillary helper projects, and then rebuilt it from the ground up. I copied out some of the domain, but put more modern practices around it. So the idea of the web UI itself is just going to be the user interface. All the business intelligence and everything is inside this API. So there's 2 controllers. These controllers use dependency injection to figure out where it's going to get its data from. It has a Swagger API that we're going to use, etc. So you joined in for the first time today, you've really just seen the start of us rebuilding that web app. The source has not been open source yet because I originally had it as privatized, and now that I got rid of a lot of the secrets in the configuration, I will probably open it up and put it on GitHub. But right now I think it's all in my private. It could be public, I don't remember. But it's a while, and it was just when I was starting to get to learn the Git source control for, there it is. Let's see, is this a public repo? Let's go to my projects. Come on, you should be able to tell me right there if I'm public or private. No, it's private. So I'll probably, I just actually kind of really set them up yesterday or last week. I got them all working and the branches and everything configured. So I might migrate this over to GitHub or just turn it on and make it public. But we'll see. Maybe I'll do that over the weekend. Which part are you looking forward to seeing, Dave? Me move it to Git or just the building of the app from scratch? Or building the web API or the web UI from scratch? I should have probably did it all today since I have my resident CSS expert here. Web API is actually kind of already built, but I know I'm going to need to add to it. This part, I'll probably make all this public because there's nothing really here that's private except for the actual database. But if I put together a scaled down version of the database, there's a couple of tables in here that are private, like users. There's no passwords in here. We use a third party, but I don't know if the third party exists anymore, kind of like Okta. But the main event secrets are actual secrets. They're like my tokens for Bing API and everything else like that. So I got to figure out a way to kind of mask that. Cool. Well, I can definitely share this with you. I don't know if I think I recorded the building of the API on my YouTube channel, which I think I have that. I just didn't post the last episode because that one we got into a tangent with one of the guests, and I talked most of the time about getting started streaming, like our Twitter conversation today. Someone wanted to get started, and I walked through a lot of the stuff that I did with you, and this one wasn't actually Jason, it was someone else. So I was talking about that, and then we got started into what else we got? Oh, we got started into DJing, since I used to DJ in high school and college, and he started sharing me some of his stuff, and we were watching some of his YouTube videos on it. If you go to jjg.me/YouTube, or just search for my random channel name, since I don't have enough subscribers yet, you'll get here. If you're still on, actually it was DJ the Jammer. I was the Jammer back in the day. JoeG came as a courtesy of Quicken Loans is one of my nicknames, but I used to be the Jammer in the days. Hector, if you're still on, the video I was talking about is this one, Introduction to IDEs Part 2. That really walked through, or not Hector, it was the gentleman that started off earlier, Yetimus. This is the video that kind of walked through Rider. This was a lot scaled down version. This is before I semi-perfected the streaming. And then for you, David. Oh, look. It's Alyssa. Let's see if we do the most recent. Yeah, one of these refactor ones starts the, oh, here it is. API validation. So this kicked off the API work, and then some more around it to make sure it worked. This is actually taking out the secrets that were in the API and moving them to our own table, and then creating our own API for it, which we kind of did here. And then today was starting with the UI part. Looks like I have a pretty standard face with all these. Cool. If you like what you see on the YouTube channel, hit me up and hit that like button that's somewhere around here, which doesn't show up on my screen. I'd love to get past 30 subscribers. I upload every video that I'm done with here. Usually it takes about a half hour or so for me to edit and upload, and then it's posted on social media. But you can follow me on any one of these, Jay Guadagno on Twitter, my Facebook, public Facebook page here, or YouTube, where you find a lot of this content. It looks like I have some homework to figure out filters or stuff, and then we are going to, ooh, hit the wrong button. Now it's going to play a page. And I was going to edit my page. I don't want to edit. Well, I really like it. I want to do the better watermark. Let's see if David really hit subscribe. Still says 30. Liar, liar, pants on fire. This doesn't update in real time, so don't worry about it. I believe you. As soon as my phone goes off. Okay, so I'm going to do some homework around filters and see how we can get this in the request so that I can do it. Talk to everyone later. Have a great day. Hopefully I see you tomorrow. Bye, Debbie. You're supposed to be staying disconnected.